Yeah, it's.
So you don't have it, Ken, under the 3 dots?
It's grayed out. It's there, but it's grayed out and it won't let me start it. But anyway, recording has started, so go ahead and start, Chair Olson.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular virtual meeting of the City Planning Commission Committee of the Whole. Today is Thursday, August 19th, 2021. My name is Alyssa Olson, and I'm the Vice President of the Planning Commission. This meeting includes the remote participation of board members and staff as authorized under Minnesota statutes, section 13D.021, due to the declared local public health emergency. The city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to Minnesota open meeting law. I will call this meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll to verify the quorum?
Commissioners Ford, Marwa, and Sweezy are excused this evening. Commissioner Baxley.
Here.
Caprini. Ismaili.
Here.
McGuire.
Here.
Meyer.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Schrader. There are 5 members present.
All right, we have a quorum, and with that, we'll proceed to the agenda, a copy of which was posted for public access to the city's legislative information management system, which is available at lims.minneapolismn.gov. Commissioners, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda? Commissioner Meyer.
So moved.
Commissioner McGuire.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. With that, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Baxley.
Aye.
Caprini. Ismaili.
Aye.
McGuire.
Aye.
Meyer.
Aye.
Schrader. Chair Olson.
Aye.
There are 5 ayes.
All right, that motion passes and the agenda is adopted.
Marwa, I just joined the meeting. Can you all hear me on my phone? I'm on a business trip.
We can hear you, Commissioner Marwell. We didn't know you're coming. Welcome.
Thank you. And I can join for a little bit. Thank you. I'm here.
All right. Okay, so that motion passes and the agenda is adopted. Next on the agenda is the acceptance of the minutes of the regular meeting from August 5th, 2021. Can I have a motion to accept those minutes? Commissioner Meyer?
So moved.
Commissioner Ismaili?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Baxley.
Aye.
Caprini. Ismaili.
Aye.
Marwa.
Aye.
McGuire.
Abstain.
Meyer.
Aye.
Schrader. Chair Olson.
Abstain.
There are 5 ayes and 2 abstentions. There are 4 ayes and 2 abstentions.
You're on mute, Commissioner Olson.
Sorry, rookie move. All right, that motion passes. So the first item on our discussion agenda today is number 4, Upper Harbor Terminal, and staff is Hillary Dvorak.
All right, good afternoon. Can you see the slide? Okay.
if we
Wonderful.
can.
Wonderful. Okay. Because it does not appear on my screen for some reason. So I'm Hillary Dvorak. I'm a planner in CPED, and I'm here to introduce to most of you, I think, or all of you maybe, the Upper Harbor Terminal development. What is on the screen before you? I'll just describe it because I'm going to talk through several of the pages of the memo that was provided, and I'm going to stay on this slide until we get into zoning. This is the development overview. This is the image that is in the coordinated plan that has been completed for this project and will be going to the City Council later this year. So the Upper Harbor Terminal site is located on the western bank of the Mississippi River in North Minneapolis. It's located in both the McKinley and the Camden industrial neighborhoods. The site is generally bounded by 40th Avenue North on the north, the Mississippi River on the east, 33rd Avenue North on the south, and then the CP Rail, 2nd Street North, I-94 and 1st Street North on the west. The site, up until most recently, has been used as an intermodal barge shipping terminal and was used for storage and transfer of commodities to and from the site. The barge terminal remained in operation until the end of 2014, when barging ceased due to the planned closure of the Upper St. Anthony Falls lock in the spring of 2015 due to the Asian carp. Uses prior to the site of being a barge shipping terminal included lumber yards and mills and later commercial gardens. Fast forward many years. So now what is before you and what will be coming before you in the next year or so is a project that United Properties, in partnership with First Avenue Productions, the Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board, and the City of Minneapolis, is proposing to redevelop the 53 acres of land into a mixed-use development. Uses would include residential and hospitality, retail and service, office and employment, light industrial, an outdoor community performing arts center, and 19.5 acres of parkland. And I will just point out on this slide that the 19.5 acres of parkland is concentrated along the river. What you see on this, and I apologize if it's small or hard to read, the yellow buildings, that is the housing components of those buildings. The pink or the red is the commercial or non-residential portions of those buildings. And then as you head, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse? This is the Community Performing Arts Center. And then south of there, as you approach 33rd, which south is up in this plan, there are two manufacturing, production, and processing buildings proposed on that southerly end of the site. Redevelopment of the site would include all new infrastructure, including water service, sewer, stormwater, street, sidewalks, trails, and other utilities. There are services leading to the site. However, those services need to be extended to accommodate all of the new development that is proposed over the entire 53 acres. Currently, there are overhead transmission lines that come across the river from the power plant, the XL power plant, across on the east side of the river to this site, and then they head south down into downtown. The existing power line transects those southerly portions, those southerly parcels, of the site, and those overhead power lines will be moved in cooperation with XL Energy to the railroad corridor, which is on the west side of the site for those southern parcels. So just going to take you through the background of the project. So this current project, and there have been many starts and stops for the Upper Harbor Terminal site since the city learned that the federal government was going to be closing the upper locks. But for this current project, we started visioning and community engagement in 2015. In 2019, the City Council established the Collaborative Planning Committee. They were charged with producing a coordinated plan for the site, and they have done that. We provided links to that development plan or the coordinated plan and the website for the whole project. So I'm hoping, or I'm encouraging you as we move forward in the next several months or year to read through some of these materials. I could have flooded you with information, but I thought providing links to some of these pages was a better use of your time, so you can peruse it when you have time. Since the Collaborative Planning Committee, which was called the CPC, which throws me off sometimes, but the Upper Harbor CPC voted on and voted to support the coordinated plan just in July of this year. Things that will be happening moving forward. Public Works is continuing to lead engagement on the public realm side of the project. The draft coordinated plan will be presented to the City Council this fall, and then infrastructure work will begin in 2022. We have also recently, I don't want to say completed because it's not quite done, but we have done an environmental review for this project. The city ordered an alternative urban area-wide review, or an AUAR, for this project. We studied 3 different scenarios within that environmental review. One was a no-build scenario. Then there was scenario 1, which is the draft coordinated development plan. And then scenario 2 is the maximum build allowed under the Minneapolis 2040 plan. An AUAR requires a mitigation plan, and that mitigation plan identifies the environmental impacts and then mitigation strategies to address those impacts. And then also in that mitigation plan, it also talks about or assigns responsibility to those. Again, we provided a link to the AUAR page for this project. I encourage you to read that. There are approximately 55 pages of land use, just in land use discussion in that. Again, I could have given all of that to you, but I wanted to condense it so I wasn't flooding you with information. Eventually, you will need to read all of it because it is applicable to your work. However, I did not provide everything in this memo, as I was just wanting to introduce to the project to you and then key you up for what will be happening later this fall. But I would encourage you to go back and read the AUAR, at least the land use section, because there is a lot of information in there that's very applicable to what you all do for the city. The AUAR will be going to the Biz Committee next Tuesday for adoption, and then onto the City Council for final adoption, and then put back out to the EQB monitor. Oops, sorry. Okay, is that showing up, Commissioner Wilson? Okay, thank you. So what will be coming before the Planning Commission October 18th is the meeting that we're scheduling. We are going to be bringing a rezoning application, a rezoning package to you. We're going to be bringing right-of-way vacations that will need to be processed, and also replatting of this property. The current site, as you can see, is zoned I2, which is medium industrial, and then I3, which is general industrial. And I would just point out, and many of you know, I3 is our heaviest industrial, so anything that you can imagine could go onto this site currently. So it is a key. It's a win, I would say, for the river and for the city to be removing all of this industrial zoning from the riverfront. We are proposing to rezone the site to a mixture of different zoning classifications. And I'm going to just point out on this map, you can see that the parcels have numbers on it, 1A, 1B, 2, etc., all the way down to 7A and 7B. This is how we talk about this project when we discuss this as a project team and with our development partners. So you will see many written materials from me that reference these parcel numbers. So commit them to memory, if you will, if you want to. All of us have, and when people renumber them or name them something different, I can tell you we all get off. So those, the northern half of the site is where the I3 is, and then the southern half and those parcels between I-94 and the railroad tracks are I2. Both of the scenarios that we studied in the AUAR are consistent with the future land use. However, they're not consistent with the rezoning that is currently on the site. So we do need to rezone the site to be consistent. That was your base zoning. So I'm not going to get into all of the overlays that are on this site, and there are many. So this is the built form overlay zoning map. Parcels, well, all of the parcels except for the park parcel is 2. All of the other parcels are corridor 6 built form, and then the park parcel is parks and open space, or parks, excuse me. All of the development in terms of height, I should say, will match the built form guidance. However, on parcel 7A, the developers have proposed a 15-story building, and the collaborative planning committee that was established for this did vote in support of increasing the height of that property on 7A. And so we will be seeking a comprehensive plan amendment to address that. It is currently in the corridor 6. I think we would be going to transit 10, and then they would do premiums up to that 15 stories. This is the overlay zoning map for this site. The site is located, all of the parcels except for parcel 7A and 7B are located in the shoreland overlay. The park parcel is located in the floodplain overlay. The shoreland overlay, as you know, limits height to the 2.5 stories or 35 feet. Through this process, again, through the collaborative planning committee, there was a vote to increase the height of those buildings on parcels 1A, 1B, 3, 4, 5, and 6 up to 6 stories. I should take that back. 4 and 5 aren't going to be up to 6 stories, but 1A, 1B, and 6A, 6B would be. So they would be seeking a conditional use permit or variance to increase the height of those buildings. The next and last overlay is the MRCA overlay, the Mississippi River Corridor Critical Area, which this commission recently voted a new ordinance for. Parcels 1 through 6 are located in the MRCA overlay. Parcel 7 is outside of any water-related overlay district. And the structures this is in the CAUM3 district in that MRCA plan, which allows heights up to 65 feet. And so that is where we're seeing that difference between the 2.5 story max in shoreland. And then we have a 65-foot height limitation in the MRCA. And so the buildings will be seeking the appropriate approvals to go up to that 65 feet. I'm going to just go back to just the zoning map for right now. So then the other 2 applications, so that takes you through all of the zoning and the overlay work. No overlays will be changed, just the underlying base zoning. What we are proposing for zoning classifications is the park would go to C1. Parcels 1A, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to come back to that. I'm sorry. I'm going to complete the future land use section. I'm sorry, because that will all make more sense then. I apologize. So parcels 1, 6, and 7 are in the corridor mixed use. So this is future land use classifications from the 2040 plan. Parcel 2 are the park parcels in the parks and open space. And then you can see 3, 4, and 5 are in the production mixed use. So to meld the zoning with the future land use guidance, those parcels that are in the corridor mixed use would be rezoned to the C3A. We are proposing to rezone the park parcel to C1. And then for 3, 4, and 5, we're proposing an I1 or light industrial zoning classification. And I also want to say, keep in mind that as part of the citywide rezoning study that will be coming forward in 2022 or 2023, all of these parcels would then again receive a new zoning classification. As I had indicated, we will be replatting this property. Currently, there are 9 tax parcels on this site. As you can see from the numbering and the parcel numeration, we will be creating 10 tax parcels. We will also be dedicating through the plat the new roadway that will be constructed. And then we do have some right-of-way, current right-of-way on the site that needs to be vacated. And that is going through the process of utility review right now, and then also through all of the various departments or divisions of Public Works. And so we will be seeking feedback and input on those. So I know this is a really high-level overview of the site. I didn't go through the entire memo because it was more for your background and information. But we do have some questions, and I'm anticipating that we will be before you several times with this project, and obviously each parcel will require land use approvals, and we will bring each parcel to you for a review. Until they're designed, though, we don't have more information to share with you at this time about individual development sites. But in order to transfer land, not ownership, but transfer the development rights to United Properties or First Avenue or the Park Board, we need to rezone it. We need to create the lots that we would be transferring them to. So this is why we're doing this in a series of applications before you. So this package comes to establish the parcels, and then the next round of applications will be for each individual site. So the questions that we had for you are very basic. I'm just asking if you have questions on the plating process, on the right-of-way vacation process, and I did list out the rights-of-way that need to be vacated in the memo. If you have questions about the future zoning, or the comprehensive plan amendment that is required for 7A, or if you just have questions in general about the project. It has been going on for a long time. It's been in the media. It's been talked about. The City Council has had briefings on it. The Heritage Preservation Commission just had a briefing on the site last week. The site is eligible for local designation, and so we will be needing to bring demolition permits to the HPC later this year as well. So I think I will conclude or pause here and just answer any questions. And honestly, I was hoping that this could be somewhat of a conversation, even a conversation instead of me just talking at you. So I'm here to answer questions.
Thank you, Hillary. Commissioners, any comments or questions or discussion? I appreciate you laying out the process and when the applications are going to come and in what order. That's helpful.
You're welcome.
I know you all have comments or questions. Just waiting for your message to come through. Commissioner McGuire.
Okay, I'll go first. I'm super excited about this project. First of all, I guess that's my biggest comment. And I'm really not envious of staff working on it because it sounds like there's a million layers associated with it. So thank you guys for working so hard on it. Why do we have to rezone? Can you just explain why we have to rezone every individual parcel and why we couldn't just do a PUD for the whole site and then not have to rezone it in the future?
So in Minneapolis, PUD isn't a zoning classification.
Oh,
I know in other municipalities it is, but it's not here. So that is why we have to rezone each parcel.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't really have any other comments or questions. I'm just really excited, and I don't see Caprini online, but both of us live in North, so it's exciting to have some cool development happening in North and get some cool attention on North in the Mississippi. So yeah, I'm just excited. That's my whole comment.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire.
This is Commissioner Marwa. Can I give a comment? I'm sorry, I can't have access to the chat.
Yeah, please go ahead.
To be able to chime in. I'm looking at the map right now, and I was just curious about why is there not parks and open space on the other side of the river where the production processing zoned area is looking like going? Or is that a different part of the process altogether and not the one we're focusing on today? That could be the case.
Commissioner Morrow, are you talking about across the river?
Yes, I was looking at the map on page 12 where it says that's going to be production and processing space for the future land use map.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just curious why that's also not going to be parks and open space along the river frontage.
There is, so between the parcels and the river, starting at parcels 3 down to 5, there is park space between those parcels. So the road will, I'm going to go back to this image and I'm going to, are you guys with me still? I'm sorry, I can't see what I'm showing you guys for some reason. Can you see the development overview on your screen?
Yeah, that's what we
Okay.
see.
So those parcels are set back from the river. And so if you can see my cursor, this is Dowling Avenue as it comes into the site and lands right here. And one can either go north or go south. And then the majority of the park is concentrated here in the middle around the existing structures that exist on the site. And some of those structures will remain and be incorporated into the park, and some of those structures will be demolished. But then as you head further south, you have the Community Performing Arts Center here, and then you can see that the parkway does come around and then heads out to 33rd. And so there is parkland between those buildings and the river. So those parcels do not have frontage up to the river.
Okay, and that's the same for 1A and 1B?
That is correct. That is correct. So the parkway will come up adjacent to the buildings, and then there is park space between that parkway and then the river's edge.
Okay.
And the park board will be doing shoreline restoration along the river. And so what you see today is not what you will see in the future. You know, there's all kinds of stuff piled up along the edge of the river, but those things will also be addressed. And again, I intend to bring each development parcel before you, or maybe we'll have just one meeting where we talk about the park, or one meeting where we talk about the Community Performing Arts Center, or whichever aspect of the development. And that's some of the feedback I'd like to get from you guys today, is to understand what you want us to come and talk to you about. Or if waiting for each development to come in is fine, or if you want anything else in advance. But yes, none of the development parcels, the park will have all of the frontage on the Mississippi River.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Baxley, go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really exciting to see this. I know it's had fits and starts and re-engagements with the neighborhood, and I know they have weighed in and begun to shape this, which is wonderful. Couple questions. The park itself, will that become a city park that is owned and maintained by the city, or is that the developer?
The Minneapolis Park and Recreation Board will have ownership of that land, and it will become a public park.
Okay, I see. Great. And the structures and everything that are existing in there, is there obviously a key part of the sort of identity of that area? What is to become of those?
It has not been completely finalized, and what we will be bringing back to the Heritage Preservation Commission, what I can bring back to all of you, is there will be a selective demolition plan brought forward. We need to demolish the warehouse. There are a few buildings at the north end of parcel 6, and then there are some structures on parcel 2, which is the park board land, that will need to come down to construct the infrastructure, the roads, the sidewalks, do the utility work. The majority of the structures, the domes, the conveyors, the grain silos, all of those things, some will stay and some will come down, or some will be requested to come down. But I don't have a specific plan right now. If you do look in the coordinated plan, there is an early version of a demolition plan, or a preservation plan, I should say, not a demolition plan, a preservation plan, that you can see in there. It's not, I would say it's maybe not the most current version, because as the park board has gone through they've had a process with the community, with a CAC. They established a CAC for this. and they've been working through that process to design the park and come up with uses and whatnot for the park. And so through that, things have slightly changed. And the park board is also just looking at, you know, how long would we keep a structure? Can we mothball things? We don't quite know what we would do with this, but maybe we would keep it for the future. But yeah, so it's not 100% known or set in stone right now which structures would or would not stay. But I can say that, you know, there are structures on the site that would remain that would allow one to envision a barge coming up, docking, unloading coal through a conveyor system onto the site. And if things come down that also help tell that story, there are mitigation items that will need to be done, and that's through the AUAR process. And so if you go back and read the mitigation plan, and that might be the best place to start in the AUAR, is just go to the mitigation plan. It's probably the last like 5 pages of the document, where it talks about, you know, if, you know, demolishing these structures, what is the mitigation? And so there will be storytelling on the site through different means and methods that the park board and public works within the public realm spaces will be highlighting what used to be here and celebrating the history of the site, or I don't know if celebrating the history of the site is the accurate term, but telling the history of the site through storyboards or whatnot. And also maybe reflecting through design where a dome once stood or whatnot. But a lot of those details are yet to come. And I will bring that to you.
Terrific. Thank you, Hillary.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Smiley, you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a very quick question about the park being, well, obviously under Minneapolis Park Board, but I just wanted to ask, and this may very well be too soon to ask, whether or not there is any potential plan for this park to become a regional park as opposed to a city park due to like budgeting and whatnot. Do you think that's a possibility? And again, it may not be a right question yet.
I'm not sure if I have Julie Eldridge on the phone, if Julie's on the call. I want to say that this is part of the regional park plan. It ties into the North Mississippi Regional Park that is north of here. Or will eventually tie into, I should say. There are parcels located between that park and this property that aren't owned by the park board. They have been trying to acquire the land along the riverfront, as everyone knows. But I don't, I feel like I should know the answer to this question, and I'm just like, you stumped me all of a sudden. I think John Slack is on the call. Hi, John. Yep, I saw you jump on. Do you want to answer that?
Sure, and sorry, apologize. I'm in my car.
That's okay.
It is part of the regional park system. So the primary funding for this park does come from Met Council.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner Caprini, I see you have your hand raised.
I do. Can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I'm at work. I'm getting ready to open gym night. Quick question. Did I hear you say that you could actually bring us each part or each, let me back up, each project separately so that we could discuss it? Because I personally would appreciate that, because it's such a big project and there's so much controversy and drama. Did I lose you?
Nope, we're here.
Lord.
Commissioner Caprini, can you hear me?
Okay, I can't see anyone and I can't hear anything, so I'm assuming I lost you.
We didn't lose you. Are you still there? I think we lost her.
We can make sure to get that answer to her.
Yes, and we
all right.
will. I mean, we may bring, so the development is going to be built out in phases. So 1A is not going to come to you first. 1B is going to come to you first. 6A is going to come before 6B. 7 is a later phase. 4 and 5 are going to come. And so I could bring 1 or 2 sites at a time, or you know, depending on, I'm actually meeting with the development team for the first time to start talking specifically about each site in their phase one. So they're proposing to build out in 2 phases. Commissioner Krupke, thank you. I'm glad we found you again. Yes, I will be able to bring each parcel development to you. We may bring 1 or 2 at a time, depending on how quickly the development team is ready to move on each individual site. But yes, we will come in and have a conversation as we would with any development project in the city on any site to you for review. All of these will require committee of the whole review prior to formal planning commission.
I understood that. I just was curious if they could be like 1 or 2 at a time, and I did hear you say that is something that's possible.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because it's just a lot to take in, and there's just so much controversy around the whole thing, and I'm really excited about the Upper Harbor Terminal, and I want to make sure I'm getting all the information I need to make a decision about whatever it is we're deciding on. So,
okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you. I guess I have 2 questions. My initial thought when I was looking at the layout is I was curious why the senior housing was further away from the art center and the health and wellness hub as opposed to the mixed income housing. So I was just kind of wondering why we chose that alignment as opposed to putting the senior housing closer, since typically seniors would not be as mobile, so it'd be nicer to have them close to it, or if we were trying to make like a more vibrant center of the area. And then I guess the staff report had some information on like bikes and peds throughout the site, but that's something I'd be curious about moving forward when they come back, is just the connectivity through the site and making sure that with the first phases of development, I personally would like to see that connectivity like right away, so that if it lags or something like that, we do have the trails to get through the site right along the Mississippi. So I'm not sure if that would be possible in conversations with the developer, but I think that'd be really nice too.
Sure. The park board will be the bike, and there will be city sidewalk on the development side of the parkway, and then there will be trails on the riverside. At this moment, they cannot connect. They cannot connect north and south because there's private land between this site and where the trails start. And so we won't get initial connectivity, but we will connect into the bicycle network that is on Washington, on 2nd, on Dowling, you know, so there will be that. Public Works is continuing their engagement right now on public realm. And I think what we could do in a future meeting is have Public Works join us for a meeting to go over the public realm framework plan for the site. They're kind of in the midst of that engagement right now, and so it might be a little premature, but maybe in a month or so, it would be a good idea to have them come back. As far as the senior housing on the north end on 1A versus near the hub, I'm going to have to reach out to the development team as to their thinking on that, unless I have anyone from United Properties on the call right now, Brandon or Tom. I don't think I do. So I will have to get back to you, Commissioner McGuire, with that answer.
All right, commissioners, any other comments or questions on this item? All right, I am not seeing any. Thank you, Hillary.
All right,
oh, sorry.
Oh.
Wait, hold on. Commissioner Baxley.
Had to sneak one in there. Sorry. Do you, in terms of the parcelization, is that pretty much set, Hillary, or is there, because it seems one of the intriguing things about a big development like this is, you know, it's all the magic's in the spaces in between everything, and with parcelization comes setbacks, and we begin to sort of isolate, for good reason sometimes, but you know, there's certainly an interesting potential for different kinds of densities or synergies between parcels absent those things. But so I was just curious about, no, this is pretty much here, or do you expect some fluidity as this gets more and more real coming forward?
We will be platting And I'm sorry, I don't have a preliminary plat application to show you the parcels. So things are, well, I guess the parcels that are on there is approximate. And so I think for the first phase of development, I would not anticipate having more parcels of land 5 years from now, 10 years from now. If seven's not built, if some of the parcels aren't built out, perhaps things could change. But
Right.
at this point in time, term sheets and development term sheets are being written for the specific parcels that are being created based on what we've done and know and have heard and have planned thus far.
Got it. Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last call. Okay, thank you, Hillary. We appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.
All right, next up is item number 5, Greenway Apartments, and staff is Shanna Souther.
Good afternoon, commissioners. The next item up is Greenway Apartments. You may remember looking at this project earlier this year for the comprehensive plan amendment for the properties at 2837, 2839, 2843 11th Avenue South, 2834, 2836, and 2840 12th Avenue South. Previously, those parcels had a built form designation of interior 3 and were successful in amending the comprehensive plan to re-guide to corridor 6. In addition, one of those other parcels too, I believe it was 2839 11th Avenue South, had been slated for production mixed use as a future land use category, and that has also been re-guided and remapped to the urban neighborhood future land use designation. The applicant is now proposing the land use application portion of the project to move it forward. The project itself hasn't changed in detail from what has come before you with the comprehensive plan amendment. So we're here to talk today specifically about land use applications and rezoning, site plan review. So the applicant is proposing a 5-story multiple family dwelling, and it will have a total of 97 dwelling units. 86 of those units are intended for families and individuals with a mix of income ranges of 30%, 50%, and 60% of the area median income. And 11 units will be specifically reserved for people who would otherwise be experiencing homelessness. So a clarification from the Planning Commission memo that was for today's meeting is that it's not going to be an emergency shelter, but instead subsidized dwelling units. So that conditional use permit will not be required. The site is just north of the Midtown Greenway, and it is what we call a through lot. So there is a frontage along 11th Avenue South and a frontage along 12th Avenue South. So that creates 2 front yards for the proposed project. The property lines to the north and south are both interior side property lines. Here's some general context of the area. Midtown Greenway is nearby, Abbott Northwestern, again, Midtown Greenway. We're a few blocks here from the transit hub on the other side of the Midtown Greenway, and kind of important intersections at Chicago and Lake as well. This just kind of shows the greater area and kind of the nearby sites and the proposed site area in context. And some of this is the surrounding analysis. So many of these slides were used to justify the designation from interior 3 to corridor 6. The existing uses on the property are a combination of vacant parcels. There was a contractor's yard and storage building, a single-family dwelling, a 2-family dwelling, and a 4-unit residential structure. So those would all be demolished as part of the proposed project. So one of the other things in conversation with the developer that we want to discuss today are the land use applications. So presently, there are several of the parcels that are zoned R2B. which, although being a multiple family district, doesn't permit multiple family dwellings greater than 3 units. So certainly the properties at 2837 11th Avenue South and then 2834 and 2840 12th Avenue South will have to be rezoned. The remainder of the site is zoned R4, which is also a multiple family district. Multiple family districts R4, a multiple family dwelling is a permitted land use and does not have a density requirement. However, in the plan unit development in R4, there is a density, a lot area per dwelling unit requirement that can't be met. So one of the questions today will be whether or not the plan unit development is the more appropriate application, or if they should come forward as a multiple family dwelling. So part of the conversation is around what additional land use applications would be required. Based on the platting of the lot, as I mentioned, there are 2 front yards. There's one along 11th Avenue South and another along 12th Avenue South. The setback along 11th Avenue South would need a variance. It is less than the district setback. And then the setback, a setback variance would also be required along 12th Avenue South based on the location of the adjacent dwelling to the north. So the established setback in this case is greater. So staff had identified those 2 front yard setbacks and had conversations with the developer early about doing a plan unit development. So that was originally what we thought that they would like to apply for, but I think they're weighing their options. So today we would like to have specific feedback of, is the plan unit development the more appropriate application to avoid those front yard setback variances, or if we think that there is practical difficulty in order to approve those variances along both 11th and 12th. So from a district setback and then also from an established setback. There will be a variance also required for balconies along the south interior side property line. As I mentioned, that's an interior side, even though it is accessible from the Midtown Greenway, and that being a public pathway, it's not a public street. So there's an interior side property line here that's being met, and then an interior side property line on the south. So in addition to the promenade is also too wide in a required setback. So balconies and the walkway would require interior side yard setbacks regardless. So I had also planned to talk a little bit about the proposed amenities, but I think it's probably really more important to have a conversation about whether or not we think the plan unit development is the appropriate application, or if the front yard setback variances seem reasonable and consistent. So I think I might stop there for now, and I will turn it over to the applicant to see if they have anything additional that they would like to provide for information.
Hey everybody, this is Paul Keenan from Reuter Walton. I've recently taken this project over from Kyle in our office, so I think you've seen this project before, but not me. So good to meet you all. I will let kind of our team do a majority of the talking. The one clarification I want to make is that there are 86 total units, of which 11 are for high priority homeless. So just want to get that out there. So I guess Carol or Josh, you want to take it from here?
Hi, folks. Nice to see you. This is Carol Lansing, Faegre Drinker, working with the development team and Shanna to figure out what the application process is to go through. Really, the differences are just technical ways through the code. We're not going to, the project will be proposed in the same way under either approach with all the same features. So otherwise, I think unless Josh, there was something you wanted to comment on specifically, let us know. Otherwise, we're here for questions.
No, not really.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, comments or questions on this item? Commissioner Baxley.
I think that was from the previous item, but I'll ask a
Sorry,
question anyway.
you don't have to, but you can.
That's right.
You can come up with something.
Yeah, Carol. Maybe for staff, has this there's been an awful lot of development along the Greenway up to this point. Is this an issue that is new, or have we encountered a question like this before? I'm just curious. I just had some other questions about the design, but I'm just curious on is this whether the PUD or not, has this come up before, and what have been the sort of if the project's not going to change, what are the advantages either way of either precedent setting or I need some filters to be able to understand one or the other.
So this is probably a newer question, considering the recent amendments with built form and the reduction in the lot area for the planning and development. The planning and development has always been used as a tool to get more amenities to offset some of those strict zoning requirements, such as setbacks. There's a handful of other ones as well, but in this particular case, just setbacks. This certainly has some unique characteristics as a development site, seeing as how it does have 2 front yards. However, reductions are requested along both front yards. So it's really a question of whether or not we think that there's practical difficulty present in order to support the variances versus the planning and development, where there are amenities provided, such as the underground parking, and then we can talk a little bit about the promenade and the open space. If we think that that's the direction for the PUD, those amenities are already present. So the planning and development process may be preferable in order to avoid the variance if we don't think that practical difficulty exists. But I see Carol has her hand up, so I'm going to let her jump in.
Thanks. I have worked on a number of those projects along the Greenway, and in the past, we primarily did PUDs when we had more than one building on a lot, because under the zoning code, there is no other way to get more than one building on a lot. So for example, the Elan development that has 3 buildings, they're connected by kind of a skyway, but they're separate buildings. We had to do a PUD. Under PUDs, you can get flexibility to or alternatives for front yards and yards within a PUD if there's multiple lots, but not along sides that abut residential. And so in this instance, we're still going to have to apply for variances for the south side yard to have some nicer features there. And frankly, it's simpler from an application preparation and report standpoint to just do those and not the PUD. As I said, the PUD does require amenities. And so that can often be considered an advantage from the city and planning commission standpoint to, get those amenities. In this case, the underground garage provides 10 points. That's going to happen no matter what. And then we would need 5 points for yards. And, I think we would be getting that probably through the promenade or something like that. So I don't think it would result in any different features here.
Maybe I think that's kind of where my thinking is, that the PUD might be better, but I'm interested in understanding from you guys, the applicants, when we say practical hardship, what does that entail for those in this particular project?
And I'll talk about that, but I see Kimberly may need to revise or amend what I've said.
No, definitely not amending anything Carol said. I did just want to, Shanna had mentioned the change to the built form regulations and how it impacted the lot area for planned unit developments, making that an option for a site like this where it hadn't been previously. We've also talked a lot at the commission about the adoption of the built form regulations being kind of a reset or a pivot point on the way we're looking at variance applications now that we've redone all of those regulations to really communicate and codify what we're looking for in terms of setbacks, to look at those setback variances a little bit closer and analyzing that practical difficulty finding, you know, a little bit differently than we maybe had in the past. So we're looking for actual, you know, really unique site circumstances where there is a true practical difficulty in order to recommend approval of those variance applications, which is the question you just asked Carol, and I think she was going to get into a little bit. So that's another reason why I think we had steered them in this direction, to reduce the number of variance applications and pursue the planning and development.
With respect to the front yards, I think it's not a novel idea to recognize that when a site has 2 front yards, that's a unique circumstance. And unique circumstance doesn't mean you never see it anywhere else, right? But it is, you know, not typical. And in this case, both front yards have increased setbacks due to the established setback of the houses to the north. So if the base front yard requirement would be 15 feet, but it's greater on both sides because of these increased setbacks. If it were 15 feet for us, this building could fit on this site without a front yard setback. In this case, it's pushed a little further west. So it's more than 15 on the east, but less than 15 on the west. And that's because on the west side, the adjacent house has a very deep, like over 30-foot setback, I think. So we're just trying to kind of more fit with the character. So that is my unique circumstances and the hardship of placing a multiple family building on a through lot with 2 front yard requirements.
That's good. And I think something certainly for the commission to consider, because obviously those properties to the north are the greatest affected by this development for sure, right?
And I'll say, Commissioner Baxley, that, you know, that's practical difficulties. Another prong is that's unique circumstances and difficulties, but then there's also, is it reasonable? Is what you're proposing reasonable? And that's what, and within the spirit and intent of the ordinance, and that's goes to impact on neighbors. I'll point out here that there's a lot of separation of this building because of the ramp that goes to the underground garage and the alley. So that adds openness and view and all of that front yards are intended to address.
Potentially, but the project does offset that with verticality, Carol, for sure.
Yes, but it is an allowed height. So
correct. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Very.
All right, Commissioner Meyer, go ahead.
So I do think that the 2 front yards is a unique circumstance that could justify the practical difficulties, but I don't have a strong opinion on that. But I did want to ask a different question, which I asked previously when this came forward, and for the life of me, I couldn't remember what the answer was the last time. But it just seems really weird to me that why the bike parking is away from the entrance. Can you just refresh my memory on why you're choosing to put the bike parking away from the Greenway entrance?
Yeah, I knew that would come up because it did come up last go around. We did look at possibly relocating the bike storage to the other side. One of the reasons we didn't is because that that bike parking is right against the entrance to the ramp, making it not a great location for a unit, as opposed to the alley, which we're expecting to have less traffic, and we have the ability to have landscape buffering that's going to prevent, you know, headlights from shining into someone's bedroom. The other thing is with providing the promenade, you know, it's not a direct connection to the park and the ramp down to the Greenway, but you know, we're providing the promenade so that you can cross over to 11th and go down to that ramp and get down to the Greenway. So it's only adding basically the length of the site to get there.
Right. Well, I do think that's unfortunate. If there's a way to rethink it to put the bike parking next to the entrance, I do think that would be an improvement.
It is worth noting we are providing entrances on both halves of the building. There will be a small lobby and office on both the 11th and 12th Avenue fronts. So it's not like someone is going through the building to get there to the bike parking.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other comments or questions? Commissioner Baxley?
Since we're talking about the bike parking, will there be a way to get one's bike off the Greenway up there? I think it's currently shown as all stairs. Will there be a little sloped section to roll your bike up there? What are you guys thinking there?
We've been looking at it, but haven't come to a determination there. It sounds like because of what we're having to do with that stair down to the Greenway, just to manage the slopes, you would be taking your bike on and off of the rail so much that it may not be worth it. Just because what we're trying to do with the shape of the stair there is match the slope of the Greenway so we don't have major retainage, because that wouldn't be, you know, feasible from an engineering standpoint. So the answer is that probably won't be possible. But we do have the park directly to the west that has the ramp down to the Greenway. And then one block to the east, it's not directly connected, but one block to the east, there's also a ramp that goes down to the Greenway.
I appreciate the study. And again, I think to Commissioner Meyer's question, that comes into play as to, do you need to have the bike as close to the Greenway? If I can't get my bike off the Greenway at that point, maybe where it's located is more relative to how bikes are coming into the project. So thank you for studying that.
I just wanted to say, and I apologize if someone already said this, what I learned today is that the proposed stairs would be replacing an existing wooden rickety staircase that goes down. So it's not totally a new connection, but it would be a much nicer one. That's not part of our site plan. It's not on our property, and we need to get HICRA permission to do it. Reuter Walton has reached out to HICRA to start those conversations and is willing and made a commitment to the neighborhood to make that concrete stair improvement if we can work it out with the county.
Great.
I'm not seeing any other questions. I'll give you guys a minute just in case. All right, well, Shanna, if you feel like you have received the feedback you need.
I think so.
Okay. All right, well, thank you to Shanna and the development team.
Thanks everyone.
Guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, we have, oops. All right, we have one item left. It is item number 3. It is item number 6, inclusionary zoning fees text amendment, and staff is Joe Bernard.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Today, the item that I'm bringing up here for discussion is a text amendment that you'll be seeing at the full Planning Commission meeting next month. The purpose of the text amendment is pretty simple. You'll see from the materials, there's not a whole lot to it, but I'll give you a little bit of background info. basically we need to add line items in our fees table in the zoning code that will be associated with monitoring, certifying, and the general administration of our inclusionary zoning regulations that we adopted in 2019, and that went into effect last year. So whenever a project is proposed and built that is subject to our inclusionary zoning ordinance, we need ongoing assurance that the projects will remain in compliance with the ordinance. And so the need for these fees, something we identified and understood when the inclusionary zoning policy was adopted a couple of years ago. We're just now getting to a point where the city is preparing to hire a third-party administrator to administer and monitor these projects. So we need to move forward with putting the fee in our ordinance. That's the gist of it, and it's all I've got to share on this item today. But here to answer any questions, support discussion if there is any.
Thank you. Could you just tell us how these fees were determined?
They're based on the cost to actually administer the fees. So we have state. I think I'm stating this correctly. We have state laws regarding how much we can charge for these fees, and they have to be commensurate with the amount of staff time that it takes to administer them.
Makes sense. Commissioners, any comments, questions? Commissioner Smiley.
Yeah, I just have a very quick question. Just kind of wondering if during this process, these fees were maybe compared to other neighboring cities, and are they similar pretty much?
Commissioner Smiley, unfortunately, I don't have a direct answer for you on that. This is something that our staff is taking forward on behalf of our housing staff. They're doing the bulk of the work in administering this, but I will definitely have an answer to that question for you at the full Planning Commission.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
This is Commissioner Morrow. I have a quick question. Sorry, again, I'm
Go
phone,
ahead.
so I'm trying to keep up on a screen while you guys are talking. Are these fees also asked when it's not an IZ, project? Like, I just don't want to see this as a discouragement or something around that. Oh, this is just another fund or another fee that continuously has to get paid when IZ is being used.
Sure, Commissioner Marwa, we're certainly sensitive to that. This is a fee that is only IZ projects are subject to, as it's directly related to monitoring and making sure that over the years they stay in compliance, that the units stay affordable over time. And this is something that went into all the calculations about whether or not it would be feasible and advisable to do IZ in the city 2 years ago. There were assumptions about what those fees would be. So I think everyone has been anticipating this and understanding that this is going to be something that we're going to do. We're basically to the point where we're formalizing that understanding from a couple of years ago.
Okay, that makes sense. And kind of on Raya's question, or Commissioner Smiley's question as well, is this a fee that other cities also charge? Not comparably, not about the exact price, but is this something that's common?
Yes, yeah, it's common. It's something that, as far as I'm aware, all cities that have to do ongoing monitoring pass that cost on to the developer in some way or another.
Thank you. No other questions for me.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, commissioners.
All right. That was our last item. Are there any staff updates?
Yes, to go along with the IZ item, I did just want to note, we've mentioned it here in the past, but there is a report going forward to the Biz Committee of the City Council next Tuesday. That's essentially an 18-month check-in on where things are at with the inclusionary zoning piece, both from the zoning code and the piece that is in the unified housing policy. So it's a fairly robust report. You can access it by going into the city's LIMS site, going to the Biz Committee agenda, and there is a link to the full report. There's also going to be a link embedded in that report to a dashboard. That dashboard is tracking in real time, or as close to real time as we can, where we're at in terms of hitting the threshold for permitting projects between 20 and 49 units. So as you know, once we hit the 500 mark on those types of projects, then there's a waiting period, and then the threshold will lower down to 20. So it tracks that. It will show any fees that have been captured for projects, paying the in lieu fee instead of providing units on site, which projects are in for permits that will be providing units on site, how many units, that sort of thing. So a pretty great tool that our colleagues in CPED Housing have put together, and worth checking out if you have time. So that's all I have.
All right, thank you. With that, we've completed all the items on our agenda for this evening. Does anyone have anything else to bring before us before we adjourn? All right, without objection, then I will declare this meeting adjourned. Our next committee of the whole meeting will be Thursday, August 19th. Oh, that's not right. Our next planning commission meeting will be, anyone have it?
So we have a weird situation where, because of the Labor Day holiday and some other calendar factors, we have a September 9th Thursday Planning Commission meeting coming up.
Okay.
So that's not on your radars or on your calendars. Note that I admit I kind of lost track of it until public hearing notices went out. So we have a regular meeting of the Planning Commission on Thursday, September 9th.
Okay, everyone mark that on your calendars.
Yes.
Do not forget.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that? Did you say it was the City Planning Commission, or it was our town meeting on the 9th of September?
It's a regular meeting on the 9th.
Regular meeting.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. All right. That concludes our meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.